Time to take a look through Monday's newspapers, braving the snow and ice this morning. Broadcaster Johnny Gould and journalist and writer Nabila Ramdani. Good morning, both.
Good morning, SJ.
OK getting in this morning?
Yeah, it was comparatively good in the southeast.
Yeah,
all the snow was yesterday.
Yeah, we've sort of, it's passed us by today, but not for everyone.
No.
We'll keep you updated on that throughout the morning. But it is our lead story, and Nabila, it's on the front cover of a lot of the papers today. You've chosen the Mirror, blitzed by a snow bomb.
Yes, indeed. It's quite a big spread actually in the Mirrors, and it might sound like a bit of a dramatic title, but I don't think it is, because it covers the situation across the country with cities like London, Shropshire, Staffordshire, and indeed the West Midlands, where it seems that the situation is much more dire than in central London, where traffic, let's be honest, was quite fluid this morning. But it's, dare I say, it's the usual case where everything looks pretty and Christmassy in some parts of the country, but it can also be hugely dangerous, and especially on the road. So the Mirror looks at, you know, massive drops in temperatures and the consequences that could affect people, not least of all airports being blocked, roads, you know, disrupted, schools also affected, hospitals to a certain extent, trains being delayed, and
do you know why the trains were delayed? Apparently, Greater Anglia trains had to have a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit because their horns had frozen.
There you go. I haven't heard that one before.
How about that? It's the wrong kind of horn.
But it does affect everything. I mean, you know, obviously being in central London, it's just a London-centric view from me yesterday, but I was going to go and see my mum and dad and get on the tube, and part of the tube line was down because snow had brought some power lines down. So it does affect everyone in a small way, and even though kids are going to be going, hooray, snow day, it has a knock-on effect for parents who have to, you know, call into work and go, I can't come in today.
That's right, and particularly for Birmingham, because the whole of the city's schools, or should we say the ones under the City Council's jurisdiction, are shut down today. And that is one of the administrative issues that we have. Birmingham, just my expertise in that area, has a unified council. It's not like, for example, London, which has all its different councils which can make individual decisions. So the whole city grinds to a halt because someone has to press the button.
Yeah, well, take care out there today. Snow and ice warnings issued by the Met Office. We'll keep you in the picture this morning here on Sky News Sunrise. Let us know what's happening where you are. You can email us at news@sky.com or drop me a tweet this morning at Sky Sarah-Jane. Somebody has tweeted me from Mallorca. Very different view there this morning. No more of those kind of tweets.
Yeah,
thank you very much. Johnny, page one of the Times, the Grenville inquiry. We're going to find out a bit more about it this morning. But they're talking about the action that's wanted by residents and survivors being taken over by militants.
This is really disturbing, and it is a phenomenon of the modern electronic news media, Sarah-Jane. Survivors of the Grenville Tower fire are accusing agitators on the fringes of Grenville, actually nothing to do with it directly, and political groups of exploiting this disaster. So people are looking on who are genuinely affected, who are trying to produce some sort of justice locally and on the ground, and seeing people like a woman who repeatedly accused the local Conservative councillor of having blood on her hands, apparently as a long-standing national officer for a militant union and a colleague of John McDonnell, the Shadow Chancellor. We are seeing RT, Russia Today, taking the editorial angle to try and foment class war in Britain. And this is one of the consequences, isn't it, of the news media, the fact that you can name yourself something like, you know, the Grenfell Action Group or whatever. I'm not saying that it's particularly bad or good name, but you can go on the media and present yourself as saying something must be done here. The number of dead is being exaggerated by these groups to foment more anger, and people are looking on who are genuinely affected by this and thinking we're losing control of our own destiny
It's
here.
being hijacked. Nabila, is this a new phenomenon? I mean, we hear about this almost activists for hire. Activists will jump on the back of a cause and fuel it. Is this a modern phenomenon, or has this always gone on, but in light of social media now and 24-hour news, where they've got more of a platform?
Well, I feel that there can't be enough inquiries into this appalling tragedy, frankly, and think now that we know that the Equality of Human Rights Commission is getting involved, is going to be extremely useful. And in my view, you know, the more people they talk to, the better. And what is paramount and what we shouldn't lose sight of in all this is how important it is to get to the truth. And if it takes, talking to different people, then fair enough. But I think the major focus should be on the families and those who survived them.
Yeah, survivors and relatives will find out today what role they will play in that inquiry. Let's talk about the Brexit deal. Nabila, you've chosen The Guardian's front page, fresh doubts over Brexit deal.
Yes, indeed. And I think that papers like The Guardian and indeed The Observer, where the story was run as well, will be always offering fresh doubts about Brexit for eternity, to be honest.
There are always questions to be asked.
Indeed. And I feel that it's quite right, because we live in a democracy, and that's absolutely the job of the media to question the policies and, of course, the strategy. And it's essential that everything is being challenged into the months and indeed years to come. And that's, I feel, an elementary part of the Brexit process.
Well, The Guardian has doubts. The Eye has rants, Johnny. David Davis apparently ranting on the EU deal.
Well, I did enjoy his interview on the telly yesterday, where he said, we're going to have a deal, it's going to be called Canada plus plus plus. But the media have decided it's going to be called the Maple Brexit this morning, where 99% of customs duties will be removed between the EU and Great Britain, a little bit like that with the UK, as he predicts, which means that 1% of those little deals that aren't courtesy of free movement will be the great headlines and controversies over the coming years. The other thing it means is that Canada is not obliged to pay money to Brussels, and obviously allow the freedom of movement of people by European court rulings. So that's what David Davis wants. And it was another opportunity for him to slap down Philip Hammond and say yesterday that the £39 billion that we've agreed is conditional on us doing a trade deal.
Well, yeah, a lot of papers over the weekend saying if you thought negotiations over the Irish border were interesting, wait until we get down to trade talks. A lot more drama to come. Right, we're going to take a quick break and we'll have more stories from inside your Monday morning newspapers after that. Stay with us. Johnny and Nabila guiding us through their pick of the stories from today's papers. And Nabila, we're going to pick up with the front page of The Guardian. And this is Boris Johnson's visit to officials in Tehran to try and talk about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and a release.
Yes, indeed. At least it seems that we're getting some hope in this case. I mean, Nazanin Ratcliffe, which is a British Iranian citizen, she has been jailed for the last year by the Iranian government, which is effectively accusing her of being a spy and plotting to overthrow the Iranian government. And this story has been making the headlines over the last few weeks for all the wrong reasons. And there has evidently been a huge amount of diplomacy involved. And, we remember how Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson made a few mistakes early on, saying that she'd been involved in training journalists out there. But I don't think that we should be dwelling too much on that aspect. The point is, following Boris Johnson's visit, her court case has been postponed, and it seems like there is a bit of hope in seeing her being released. It's always a cliche at this time of year to say that, the situation might be resolved before Christmas, but clearly it would be wonderful if she could be reunited with her
small
husband
sign of encouragement.
£400 million, which says that she'll get a release over a period of time, isn't there?
I think the cancellation of her latest court case is a great cause for optimism. She seems to be optimistic herself.
OK, let's change tack slightly. Johnny, in The Sun, a 100-year-old box of chocolates.
Her name is Eileen Margaret Elms, and she has a 100-year-old box of chocolates that was...
She's resisted temptation for a long time.
How about that? Imagine opening that and finding out what the fondant looks like. But anyway... she died a few years ago, aged 99, and her Christmas gift received as a child 100 years ago is going to be auctioned off. The sweets date back to between 1910 to 1914. Her niece said the chocolates were so special to her, she wanted other people to see them and asked me if I could do anything about it. No, don't open them. They're very special. Yeah. So that's that. The auction's going up in Derby if you want a manky old box of chocolates.
That well?
I don't think so. I think they might have lasted till 1915. But
well, it's a good story to tell. It's a good story to tell.
Yeah, it's a lovely one.
And we've only got 30 seconds, Nabila, but tell me about a woman who has got a PhD, aged 85.
Oh, that's a fantastic story. As someone who has a background in education, I love this kind of story. So this grandmother, who's 85, has just bagged her 5th degree at such a grand age.
Wow.
Outrageous.
And So she's got a PhD in storytelling from the University of Reading, and she
wow.
toasted her graduation with a cup of tea. How very English. And to add to her other degrees, she also had an undergraduate course in film and drama, which she accomplished in 1981. So
incredible.
It's all
she won't have to worry about age discrimination if she goes for a job. She'll be just overqualified.
She'll be exactly.
5 degrees. That's
amazing.
So impressive. Well
Storytelling.
done.
I'm
well
going
done.
for that one.
Right, thank you both. We'll have more stories from inside the papers in the next hour, but we're going to get a check on the weather today. Here's Kirsty.